Hey guys, welcome to another video. So today's video is just going to be basically my compilation of all the why does Anakin and then insert the first suggested question for each letter of the alphabet. So just sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. Google's top suggested question for letter A.
Why does Anakin Skywalker appear in Ahsoka? This is because Anakin was Ahsoka's mentor through all of the Clone Wars, and so anytime she needed guidance, she never really could get over the fact that her mentor turned into Darth Vader until the very end.
Google's top suggested question for letter B.
Why does Anakin Skywalker become Darth Vader? This is because, in an effort to save Padme from dying, he decided that he could only do so in the dark side of the Force due to manipulation from Darth Sidious. Plus, the prophecy of the Chosen One meant that he was always going to become Darth Vader, no matter what the situation was, because he was always destined to destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force.
Google's top suggestion for letter C.
Why did Anakin Skywalker call Ahsoka Snips? This is because in the Clone Wars, when they first met, Ahsoka was always impatient and very snippy, so the nickname stuck ever since.
Google's top suggested question for letter D.
Why does Darth Vader die? Yeah, that'll do it.
The other reason is because he was no longer holding on to his pain and hatred in the dark side, which was what was keeping him alive in the first place as Darth Vader after getting burned on Mustafar. Google's top suggested question for letter E. Why did Anakin Skywalker exist? This is because, in an attempt to create the perfect dark side user by Darth Plagueis, the Force answered back by creating Anakin Skywalker to bring balance to the Force. Google's top search result for the letter F. Why does Anakin Skywalker become a Force ghost? So, just after destroying the Emperor on the second Death Star and saving his son Luke, Darth Vader, now Anakin Skywalker, was visited by Obi-Wan Kenobi, his former mentor, in a vision. There, he told Anakin all of the things he needed to know in order to transform into the Force. And because he was redeemed, he was able to become a Force ghost. Google's most searched result for the letter G. Why does Anakin Skywalker go to the dark side? So, in Revenge of the Sith, obviously, that is when we see his entire turn into Darth Vader, whether it's from killing Mace Windu, or killing the younglings, or executing Order 66 in general. But he always had dark side tendencies throughout his entire life, after having been a slave on Tatooine, and then not being able to save his mom because the Jedi were holding him back and saying, be mindful of your thoughts, they betray you. He always had feelings of betrayal long before Padme was ever even in danger.
Google's top suggested search for the letter H. Why did Anakin hate sand? Now, in addition to this just being a very cheesy pickup line, this was also because it fully represented his life as a slave.
Google's top suggested question for the letter I. Why was Anakin Skywalker in the Ahsoka show? So personally, other than the videos that he used for Ahsoka's training, I don't really think he needed to be in the show, as every time he popped up, it seemed that it was very forced into the script, and not so much as part of a cohesive story. Google's most commonly asked question for the letter J. Why does Anakin Skywalker join the dark side? This is because even as far back as the Phantom Menace, he already had attachments that led to emotional instabilities that led him into falling to the dark side in Attack of the Clones when his mom died, then fully embracing the dark when he was afraid of losing Padme the same way in Revenge of the Sith.
Google's top suggested question for the letter K. Why does Anakin kill the younglings? This is because in addition to becoming Darth Sidious' pawn and executing Order 66, in order to truly tap into his new powers as Darth Vader, he needed to do the most atrocious things, which included killing the younglings, along with all the... Google's top suggested question for the letter L. Why does Anakin lose to Obi-Wan? So this is a question that is often criticized from Revenge of the Sith, because when Anakin is fighting Obi-Wan, there's absolutely no reason why he should have to jump off of his platform all the way over Obi-Wan just to kill him, right? Well, the reason for this is because in The Phantom Menace, he always heard how Obi-Wan killed Darth Maul by jumping over him and slicing him in half. So it was Anakin's goal to do the exact same move, but better.
Google's top suggested question for the letter M. Why does Anakin Skywalker move so aggressively and quickly? This is because he uses a lightsaber form called Form 5 Damso, which means that it focuses very heavily on aggressive strikes and always drawing your opponent backwards.
Google's top suggested question for the letter N. Why was Anakin named Darth Vader? This is because when Sith name their apprentices, they call upon the Force for a name. And so in Revenge of the Sith, when Anakin got knighted as Darth Vader, this was because Sidious had called on the Force, and the Force answered back. Google's top suggestion for the letter O. Why was Anakin the chosen one? This is because when Darth Plagueis was attempting to manipulate the midichlorians to create the perfect Sith, Anakin was born because of the Force's response to this attempt at defying nature. Google's top suggested question for the letter P. Why did Anakin kill Padme? So in this case, this wasn't entirely his fault. I mean, he did choke her out, and he also did become Darth Vader. Both pieces were part of what caused Padme to die. But since Padme didn't officially die until after she had left Mustafar and it was of a broken heart, this also had more to do with Padme, not just Anakin himself. Google's top suggested question for the letter Q. Why does Anakin question Ahsoka? So back in the Clone Wars TV show, when Ahsoka is accused of a crime she did not commit, upon talking to her, Anakin became the only one to stand by her side when the rest of the Jedi had turned against her. Google's top suggested question for the letter R. Why does Anakin return in Ahsoka? This is because, even in death, Ahsoka never got over her trauma of her master turning into Darth Vader, and Anakin was able to show her both the positive and negative qualities he had in his life, and why it was necessary for events to unfold the way that they did. Google's top suggested question for the letter S. Why did Anakin have a scar on his face? This is because when he got in a lightsaber duel with Asajj Ventress, she slashed him across the eye. Google's top suggested question for the letter T. Why does Anakin turn to the dark side? This was always predestined as Darth Plagueis manipulated the Force, which led to the creation of Anakin. He was supposed to destroy the Jedi and the Sith, to bring balance back to the Force. Google's top suggested question for the letter U. Why did Anakin Skywalker use a blue lightsaber in Revenge of the Sith after having been knighted as Darth Vader? This is for a couple reasons. The first part is, according to Disney canon, you actually have to bleed your lightsaber red using all of your pain and hatred, which is something that Darth Vader never really had the chance to do yet, because he was too focused on destroying the Jedi, killing the younglings, destroying the separatists on Mustafar, and ending the war, while also creating the Empire. He just hadn't had time yet to properly bleed his crystal to become a Crimson Sith Saber. Google's top suggested question for the letter V. Why does Anakin Skywalker's voice change? I would say this is a pretty good explanation. Google's top suggested question for the letter W. Why did Anakin Skywalker wear a mask? So after the events on Mustafar, even though he was able to use the Force to keep himself alive while he was Darth Vader, it still took a lot of technology and stuff to properly hold his body together in order to achieve basic functions, including eating, talking, breathing, etc. So yes, he needed a mask. Google's top suggested question for the letter X. So this one didn't have a result, so the question for this one that I'm going to do is, why didn't Anakin reach out to Leia after his redemption on the second Death Star? So the reason for this is, first off, he actually did at one point, but Leia didn't see Anakin's turn from Vader, whereas Luke did. So even after Luke attempted to tell Leia that Anakin turned back to the light, Leia just wasn't willing to accept it until eventually she uncovered a book by Shmi Skywalker, which basically talked about how Anakin was as a little kid. And that was when Leia finally at least forgave Anakin, but by then he never attempted to reach out again. Google's top suggested question for the letter Y. Why did Anakin kill the younglings?
Only through me can you achieve a power greater than any Jedi, and you will be able to save your wife from certain death.
Google's top suggested question for the letter Z. There wasn't actually one, so the question I'll be answering is, why did Anakin so desperately want to become a Jedi Master? So the reason for this is actually because he wanted access to the restricted section, which would have allowed him access to Sith holocrons instead of having to follow Darth Sidious.